We can't say the future without AI. I mean, there's no way around it. 50% of workers now believe AI is going to improve their experience. When I come into the meeting room, I need a way to incorporate my AI with what's going on in the meeting. It's almost a bring your own AI type of a concept. Most of what we do in our day-to-day is going to change significantly.
Hear the latest AV trends and predictions in this episode of Crestron's Smarter Spaces podcast on your preferred podcast platform.
I hate clickbait. I hate it with a passion, and being in this business, it always bothers me.
But it doesn't work. So it's just like
that's
the problem. Is
okay,
that
hang on, it was the freaking New York Times. Okay.
No. Like, if we know that the clickbait headlines work, right? It gets our lizard brain to kick on them.
Why they keep using them?
You won't believe actor joins film.
Why wouldn't they believe an actor would join a film?
Ah, wait. You won't believe.
You won't believe? Won't believe? That doesn't mean anything. Why would 80,000 people shared it on Facebook?
I mean, it said I wouldn't believe it.
Loading up the network switch, minding the curiosity gap, and there's spying going on in your home? No, really, there is. All that and more. Next on ResiWeek. This is ResiWeek, episode 437, recorded Monday, June 24th, 2024. Mind the gap. This is ResiWeek. I'm not Matt Scott. I'm Tim Albright. Welcome to the show. Matt's somewhere. I have no idea where in the world, probably gallivanting and hanging out with, Justin Trudeau and whatever Canadian I can think of off the top of my head. With me to talk about stuff to do with residential, Seth Johnson. I got to see him at Infocom. How are you, brother?
Doing well. It's been a while, right? Yeah, it was just the last week.
2 whole weeks. 2 whole weeks.
How time flies. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I just have this course with BlackWire, and my ever-present, long-suffering editor-producer, Mitchell Toolen. How are you, dude?
I'm good. I've been here the whole time.
You have been here the whole time. Well, no, you went to Vegas.
I did go to Vegas. I told Seth that I probably would be holed up in a corner of the convention center, and I was right, because I only saw footage of you.
I didn't see him at all.
That's accurate. Anyhow, you can check that out. Mitchell can put a link to, because he's going to be doing this, he can put a link to our fantastic interview with the folks at BlackWire. A couple things going on this week, guys. First and foremost, interesting story coming from a VPN provider called Surfshark. A new study that they did revealed that popular smart home devices may, in fact, be collecting more of your personal data than you realize. There's an old movie line that says something to the effect of, what? There's gambling going on here? Shock and surprise. The investigation conducted, by Surfshark shows that tech giants Amazon and Google are leading the charge in extensive data collection practices. Amazon's Alexa and Google's Home apps top the list of data collectors, with Alexa gathering an astounding, quote-unquote, 28 data points, and Google Home following closely with 22. A study found that Amazon's Alexa platform collects more than 3 times the average amount of data compared to other smart home devices. All of this information is linked to individual user profiles, including sensitive data such as precise location, contact details, and even health information. One side note here before we get to the security issue and the questions here. Your Keurig is also collecting data points. I no longer have a Keurig. I am a huge coffee guy. I have moved on to an AeroPress as my caffeine delivery of choice. But Seth, first question here is, why are they collecting so much data on us?
Because they just want to know what makes you think. Okay. So there's, I guess in the past it's been like, oh, they're going to advertise to you. But I think we've all kind of like seen that come and go, and not be as useful, I think, is what many of these companies thought they were. Amazon, Alexa losing billions of dollars a year because their strategy was like, we'll sell these things cheap and we'll figure out something and then profit. And the something was like, well, maybe we'll just advertise to people and tell them, oh, by the way, we can get you these toilet papers half off or whatever. And nobody wanted that. Literally nobody. It's just a kitchen timer that tells dad jokes. Like, that's all we wanted. And okay, they tied in home automation to it and all that good stuff. But I think the bigger play, let's talk about like what could be useful from this data collection. Like even if it's anonymized, even like, let's say they do best practices and it doesn't tie to you, it's not you, it's not your account. It's just random anonymized information about what's going on in your house, network information, devices you have on the network, that kind of stuff. We've seen this thing called like machine learning and AI pop up in the last couple of years.
Yep.
This is great information for a large language model to sift through, figure out what a pattern is, and create those patterns and make automations better on their systems, makes their services better. And if you think the big tech giants are the only ones doing it, you're going to be wrong, because there's plenty of, systems that we're installing as custom integrators that do the same thing. Yeah. So keep an eye out for that. Like you can see those traffic and those logs being pushed up to things called data lakes just every night. You'll see a gig, meg or two go out, and like, that's a lot of information. I wonder what it was. Well, it's getting logged up there so they can go through it and they can sift through it later. As long as the data is saved, it's in there. It doesn't cost anything to really save that much data these days. And then they can just train an AI model on it later on and introduce a service that's better. It's already trained on your information. It's already trained on a group's information. It's going to match your habits, what you do, way better. And I think that could be useful. I really do think that could be useful for a lot of people too, because we were all promised a smart house, right? We were all promised, like, we're going to have a smart house. It's going to do what you want.
Seth, we've been promised a smart house.
But we got an automated house that doesn't quite work the way we wanted it to work ever. And like, it's like, it's been a big disappointment for a lot of people for years and years and years. And I think once we start adding on this little bit of magic onto it with these large language models, I think we're going to see something better come out of it. Like, not revolutionary, but a lot better than what we have now.
Mitchell, the top two ones here are Alexa and Google Home. I am not shocked by this, and exactly what Seth talked about. How is this making our life better, though? How is this much data collection making our life better?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I am a Google, we're a Google Assistant home. We have 3 at least in the thing, and I have mine to keep usually muted most of the time, because it is honestly right now it is just turn on lights, turn off lights. The upstairs one is for a timer, and I think that's about it. Sometimes the kids remember that it exists and then they yell and they turn off my lights, and it's all very fun. The data being collected, we've run into this issue before, where people are hesitant to get their stuff, to get anything voice related. Matt Scott, host of this show, sometimes has said he had stuff in there, doesn't have it anymore. And when sometimes the integrators will say, well, if they deal with these customers, they go, okay, but do you have a phone? Because that's also collecting your data. Data is always a fun thing, and it's also useless. Like, I also have a thing, Google has a fun thing where it gives you surveys and goes, hey, if you just give us your data, we'll pay you like dimes. And I go, sweet, I love having all this data for nothing. And it is generally useless. Just, it asks me where I've been when I haven't gone anywhere, because I don't go anywhere. And it doesn't really, like, I agree with what Seth was saying, that being used for AI could be useful, but we also had a moment where AI said, just glue your cheese to your pizza. So this is different data.
Yeah,
this is different data, because this is passive kind of information, but I don't know where this data is being used in a way that is useful, and it's certainly not marketable, as you said. Amazon's losing a lot of money to do it, but I don't know. Data's kind of, there's data everywhere, and it's not all going to be important.
Somebody much smarter than me said that data is the new oil, right? And I'll pull on that analogy just a second to say that oil is really hard to get to. It's a pain in the butt. It takes a lot of work, and once you locate it and once you get down to it, you have to pump it out, and then you have to process it to make it useful. Same thing with data, right? And you guys are both right in the fact that there are trillions of terabytes, and I'm using terabytes because yes, technically there's a petabyte, and that's the biggest one I can think of right now. But there are petabytes and more than that of information. Question is how we're going to use it, and quite frankly, how they're going to make our lives better. Whether that is more useful ads because that is what Amazon and Google do, or giving us a much more seamless automated home environment. Next story actually is a story about Mr. Johnson's company, BlackWire. BlackWire has unveiled a new service that could save homeowners time and money while streamlining the installation process for smart home systems. Company's new network provisioning service is set to transform how custom installation professionals handle networking equipment. This service allows installers to receive fully configured, updated, and labeled equipment that's ready for installation right out of the box. I wasn't kidding. Mitchell's going to put a link to our interview at Infocom because we talked about this. So the first question is one of the things that both homeowners as well as folks who work and live in the corporate environment or the higher ed environment, they don't always think about labor costs for their total cost of a system. Talk first about how this system really helps kind of the homeowner have a better system at a less expensive price.
Yeah, we're trying to get stuff. Everything we do, not so much for the homeowner, but for the business. We're always trying to figure out ways we can save them to have like those pain points on the job. And I guess for the homeowner, that would mean, they can get there and get the job all up and running and buttoned up. There's less that they have to worry about with maybe like a DOA product coming out of the box or something like that. It's already been burned in and tested. So I think like for the homeowner, those labor rates that they may have experienced, or on my side where if I was an installer and I opened up some networking product and then ran into problems and then spent the rest of my day scratching my head on something that should have taken 15 minutes to deploy, like or looking up forums and contacting tech support and all that stuff. I think that is kind of like what we're trying to avoid, every one of us, either installers, distributors, manufacturers, all that stuff. So anything that we can do to kind of like mitigate that and help our dealers and our partners take advantage of like any cost savings we can deliver to them, that's great. And I mean, from the installer's point of view, the idea is that you get this burned in setup system. Maybe it's not 100,000% the way that you wanted it done. Like we have a kind of a basic template thing, but like there may be stuff that you still have to do, but getting it out of the box, getting it set up, handing off an access point to a junior installer and saying, this one says master bedroom, go plug it in, guess
where it goes.
Yeah, exactly. All that stuff is the basics, like that first hour and a half of getting on the job site and kind of laying everything out, and then running into a random problem that you didn't even know you're going to run into. We're trying to take that out of the installer's path. So when they go to do a job, they actually get to do the job rather than spend time on tech support.
All right, Mitchell, I want you to put on your inventor hat here and either give Seth some more ideas or give other people ideas.
I'm ready. I'm writing them down.
We're talking about networking devices here, right?
Yep.
What other, either from a distributor standpoint or straight from the factory from, the Crestron or Extron or whoever, what other sort of products and categories could manufacturers or distributors do to help a home install go faster, better, smoother?
For installing, I feel like it's always down to, we've had a couple of conversations of this before, of the AV is always the afterthought. It's never, hey, we're building, it's in some places, I can't say there's never, but it's usually hey, we've hooked this in. Yes. There's been some recent like smart homes where it's like we've integrated the AI or the AV into the step and maybe the AI, but it's always a thought. You are never installing speakers in a spot where they are. You are cutting into the wall and putting them in, or you are putting them over things. And it's never a forethought as to a concrete, here's a box that you can use. I don't have that idea, but the thought of, but when the project is smoothing out, it's always that AV is building around things and not into it. If it were integrated, kind of like the namesake, it would be a lot smoother, I bet.
Yeah, I will say, and this product that we have comes out of already a service that we offer where we configure your AV over IP system. So it's just at Power or MXNet. We set those up and burn them in at the office, and label them and kind of use the same form process to bring everything in.
Yep.
So like we were sitting around one day and we're going, well, we're already setting up the network switches. Like, what's the access points? Let's get those done. What's a router? We'll get that done, And so it's just kind of a natural evolution into, making sure that when you're cutting in those holes, that's really the toughest part of your job all day. We don't want to like cut in the holes, get everything ready to set up. You flip the big switch on the AV system and the network, and there's a problem. That's so deflating after all that hard work.
Is, right? And there's a couple of best practices, and a number of years ago, this is probably 5 or 6 years ago, Avixa put out together a best practice, and one of them was to build as much in the shop and test as possible. One of those, again, control is my favorite part of the AV. I suck at it, but it's still my favorite part. One of those was loading the code and testing everything. Mm-hmm. And part of that is uploading the firmware, right? Which is what you guys do is part of this process on the networking side. But that goes back to kind of a best practice of do not break the seal on XYZ product. I don't care if it's an amplifier or if it's a control processor. Do not break the seal at the customer site. Not to be stupid, but you just don't do that. That is not a best practice. You should have taken it out of the box at minimum, plugged it in, right, to make sure you don't have a DOA, dead on arrival. And then, since it's plugged in already, kids, let's update the firmware. Let's make sure that we have that. And then let's upload the control program and make sure all of that is working and proper, right? If you're dealing with a projection, screen, or a projector, make sure that everything is working and working properly. It's gotten to the point where there's parts of our industry that we have matured and we have grown up and we are doing best practices. And there's still some parts that there's a bunch of roadies running around with boxes, just kind of throwing things up in the ceiling.
I think it may be that, but it's also, there's a lot more like just in time type delivery on these projects. Like if you think about the sales life cycle, you go back and forth with the client. They really want to get this done. And then they finally sign, they get you the money, you're buying the product because you're not financing it, right? You're taking the deposit and going out and buying the product. And then that takes time to get to you, either shipping delays or whatever, it finally gets to you. And then you're just rushing out there to get the job done at that point. Because you really like the client's already like, hey, we've been talking for like 5 months now. I know I only paid you a week or two ago, but like it's time to get this on the board, and you're waiting for something to come in. So I see, at least in my experience, when I was a dealer, that was a lot of it. It was just a lot of like just in time trying to get the job off the schedule and get that last percentage of the job for your profit.
All right. Last story comes to us from our friend Tony Savona over at Residential Systems. Interesting story. Go read it. I am not going to do Tony's story justice, but I'm going to synopsize it as best I can. Tony gets an email from the New York Times, and it had some interesting language, and it was a template that somebody should have sent out. Let's start there. And in it uses the term curiosity gap. And Tony goes on to talk about what that means in marketing terms. Some people, and I'll use the term he uses, you would sometimes call clickbait curiosity gap. There's a negative connotation to that because typically when you're talking about clickbait, there is the annotation that you're not really giving them what you're saying, right? Tony uses it actually in a very positive way, which was the first time I've seen clickbait used in a positive way. But here's the thing, and this is when he's talking about that, he talks about and equates it to our businesses, right? To custom installers. Everybody's working and struggling to get customers' attention, right? Seth, we are at AVNation. Tony is at Resi Systems, right? Avixa is, Cedia is. Everybody's looking, to grab everybody's attention. And to steal a line from The Incredibles, when everybody's super, nobody is, right? Everybody's a content creator, and by and large, they are for businesses and corporations. I don't care who you are. If you are a $10 billion company or a $10 million company, you have to make content in some way, shape, or form to get in front of people to create this curiosity gap. Mitchell, I am unfortunately for you going to start with you on this. Mainly because, dude, you are as responsible as I am in gathering eyeballs and getting people to our site and getting people to listen to our podcast. How can not just us, but how can the CI dealers, how can folks looking to connect with their customers, how can they leverage this idea of a curiosity gap to bring them in, and then, quite frankly, to serve them once they got them?
It is a balancing act, to further muddle the metaphor that it's a curiosity gap, because I hate clickbait. I hate it with a passion, and being in this business, it always bothers me of just like seeing something that you're like, is it always bothers. No title. The Betteridge laws of headlines is, if you're asking a question, it's probably no. And most of the time I see something and I'm like, it's probably not. For integrators and for the CI channel, you can't really be, you can be a little muddly about what your product does, but you kind of have to be concrete about, here's what we can do and here's what we can do for you. We can't promise the moon and the stars, and we can't say this box does something magical, because it can do something magical, but you got to say what it does. This is, if you try to hide it or light something around it to make it look a little more than it is, it doesn't seem that impressive. And when people say, oh well, I really like this, and it doesn't live up to their imagination expectation, then you're hurt. So I agree with, I am kind of baffled about what he's saying. He's like, this is a good way to use it, and I understand what he's trying to say, but my lizard brain is just railing against it and saying, no, say what you want, be concrete.
But it doesn't work. So it's just like that's the problem. Is that
it was the freaking New York Times? Okay.
No. Like, if we know that the clickbait headlines work, right? It gets our lizard brain to kick on them.
Why they keep using them?
Yeah, well, and like, what I'm just trying. After all this talking, I'm just like, what would be like a clickbait headline in our industry? Like, 6 installs you won't believe, or mistakes, something like that, like something to like get people to get in and click. And I could see it happening, but I don't see it happening very much in our industry. Just here and there, there's a couple of headlines over the years that were like, oh, that got me to click there.
I'll give you some websites afterwards.
And yeah, to be fair, I collect the stories for this show, and there are a few times where there are sites where I just go, oh, this headline is interesting. I'm sure we can pull something out of it. And then I read the article and go, oh, there's nothing here. Or, oh crap, it's sponsored. Right. But I'm usually good at that. I'm perfect. We always pick the right stories, no matter what.
Yeah, it's just a matter of like you said, I think you, like he's saying in the story, like, you can have the little clickbaity headline or whatever in your email to get people interested in your company, to get them to click on it and move to the next step. But like, at that point, you do need to supply some actual material, not some AI generated gunk that's just going to be like, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why I'm doing this. And I like you guys, like Mr. just said, like, I click on the stories, I read them, and I'm like, sometimes I'm like, if this was written by a robot, like we have nothing to worry about. Like, it's like, I don't understand why some of the things do get published that get published, but like, at the same time, they got me there, right? They got me on the website. Yeah. They can say that there's a number that came in and looked at an article for so many times. And, that's their goal. And our goal is to, consume the information the best we can and make decisions based on that. So yeah, I don't see any problem in it, but again, just have something you can stand on after it. No, don't make garbage just to make garbage.
Well, and you bring up something there about a lot of articles. I'm not going to pick on anybody specifically, but there are websites where
name names.
Well, here's the thing. So remember ask.com and Jeeves.com, right? I am old enough to remember when Ask Jeeves was a legitimate website, and it was incredibly valuable. Yep. And it turned into a content farm, right? And this is before AI. It's where they paid folks like, a cent a word to crank out some search engine optimization heavy article jammed with keywords. And the whole idea was just to pop to the top of Google search results.
Yep.
today's version of that is you go to an AI generator and you type in a couple of words and it spits out roughly the same quality content. Roughly, right? Today, the way we're going to differentiate ourselves, and I'm not just talking about AVNation, I'm talking about us as an industry, both from the residential side and the commercial side, when it comes to content, is to make it thoughtful and to make it interesting and to make it useful.
I might go one more step too. I think we're in an age, and I've been thinking about this, I just haven't been able to verbalize it correctly, but like, I think we're in an age where we're going to be rewarded for our humanity rather than our ability to dribble out something like that. Everybody's going to be able to make something fake, but if we can produce something that has meaning and some like life behind it, that right now I think is way more valuable than what any of the other skills that may come across, like SEO and that kind of thing.
I'm going to pull on that just a bit, and I'll give you one more. Our perspective in what we create, whether that's written or video or audio, it's our perspective. It gives you the humanity. Mm-hmm. It is our ability to connect point A to point B and kind of give our perspective and, quite frankly, our opinion on why X, Y, or Z is important or why X, Y, or Z is valuable. Yeah. And AI cannot currently do that. They can tell you to put, glue on your pizza. Yeah. But they can't give you why you should do that, especially on pineapple on your pizza. And that's a whole inside joke.
Make it taste better.
Yeah. All right. Guys, thanks so much. This was fun. Seth, how do people connect with you?
You can head on over to blackwiredesigns.com. Check us out there. We've got all sorts of new stuff hitting the website, some new receivers, a new company called IFP that we picked up kind of around Infocom time. They've got some problem solver devices out there for networking. So we're really excited to be putting more lines in.
And of course, their network provisioning.
Network provisioning, all that good stuff.
All right. Mitchell, how do people connect with you?
They usually can't because I'm not very good at social media, to be honest.
Yes, but
I
you
am
publish
writing
really interesting
things.
comics that he draws and creates.
I am. They're related to fun stuff on books and things that aren't related to AV that I should probably have published in more public spaces. But what I would say instead, to take a page from Uncle Richie, is check out AVNation.tv because we've got a lot of cool shows. I have my hands in a lot of the times because I'm making all of them. Stuff like Stay Control for the control side, ResiWeek for residential, AV Week for AV, or for the commercial side, all that kind of stuff. And while you're there, check out our underwriters because they help us get these stuff and get us to shows. And we thank them for that.
All right. For me, neither on AV Week or on ResiWeek. You can't follow me. Don't do it. It's not very interesting. But as Mitchell said, go by the website. AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. I mentioned Infocom. Yeah, this is ResiWeek, but it's important to y'all because a lot of things came out of Vegas this year. And, of course, we are gearing up for CEDIA happening in September. I am going. Seth will be there as well. So we'll get to hang out in Denver. So if you're going, come by and say hi, or just hit me up on the website. So all that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. That is all the time we have for ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is Erin Marmoran of EdTech. The world of higher ed AV is growing rapidly. That's why each month we hear from the best and brightest from colleges and universities all over the U.S. Check out EdTech on avnation.tv or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.